Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here today for this workshop on building generative AI startups on AWS. My name is Julien Groues. I'm General Manager for AWS in France, where we have a passion for helping startups building any type of business, but the topic of today is generative AI. And I think before I introduce the rest of the panel that will be here this afternoon and the different presentations, maybe just a few words on our perspective on the AI and generative AI at AWS and how we work with companies and how we work with startups and what our vision is for generative AI. The first is we've been working with AI for more than 20 years now. And it started with the Amazon business and then it got into the AWS business. And we see generative AI as now the next stage in what AI is going to be able to help us do, going from simple inputs to simple outputs to complex inputs with complex outputs. And our approach on generative AI is on 4 points. The first one is to help you build your startups with the best infrastructure available. We believe that in order to continue to build businesses, you need to have access to the best technology. That's our first commitment to you. The second commitment is helping companies work with the best models. We recognize that, as in the past with AI, there's not one model that will help solve every problem. And those models will also continue to evolve. And so our approach is to help companies, enterprises, organizations, startups have access to the best models for what they do, whether it's a model built by AWS, whether it's an open source model, or whether it's a model that would have been built by another organization. So helping you with that. The third is security and confidentiality of data. The data, the models, the results should be confidential and should be secured for our customers. And so our approach is to deploying this in companies' virtual networks so that they can keep their data, their prompts, and their systems secure. And then the last part, and I'll conclude on this, is making it easy. Today, it continues to be complicated, expensive, and our job and our approach is to try and make this as easy for you as possible, and that's why we're here today. So without further ado, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today, and I'd love to welcome the rest of the participants in the sessions today. I see Laurent, you're here on the first row, but everybody else, if you could join us on stage. And I thank you all for being here, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Julien. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're very excited to have this session today. Points of note on the agenda. We're going to start off with Hugging Face. They're going to have a keynote, and then you're going to have 5 to 10 minutes to ask questions, as Julien, unfortunately, will have to leave us after that. And then we're going to have another couple of keynotes, conversations, and a roundtable with NVIDIA Inception program. This is meant to be an interactive session. We will have time at the end, about half an hour, for everyone to participate, to ask questions across all of the speakers. We are here to talk to you. We are here to network, so don't hesitate to take part in this. So if I can please welcome Julien Simon from Hugging Face. Thank you.
All right. Well, I was going to say good morning, but no, good afternoon for once. So my name is Julien. I'm the chief evangelist for Hugging Face, a machine learning startup you may have heard about, and if not, I'm going to fix this. Here's my email address. Please take note. I'm happy to connect, answer questions tomorrow, next month, or later, if that's useful. Next slide, please. So the topic of the day, obviously, is generative AI. And unless you've been living under a rock, those models are running in production at scale today. They're not just lab animals. They've been deployed for a few months now. I guess no need to introduce ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot. But there are also many more models out there, which are generative models. For example, of course, you've heard about Stable Diffusion, and the Adobe flavor of generative AI for image generation and image editing. Of course, Bloomberg and Bloomberg GPT. They're a large language model for financial applications. Bloomberg is actually a customer of Hugging Face. And Salesforce with Einstein GPT and more, right? I mean, I could update the slide literally every week and add more use cases. So it's real, it's going fast. And I don't remember any other technology getting to production and to adoption that fast. Next slide, please. So where does Hugging Face sit? So Hugging Face, simply put, is building the largest collection of open source machine learning models. This is hosted on our main website called the Hugging Face Hub. As of today, we have over 220,000 models and over 40,000 data sets. All of these are open source. We add about 1,000 models a week, maybe more than that. It's really speeding up. And those models come from the community at large, from developers, machine learning engineers, all the way to large tech organizations. And this is how you end up having so many models and data sets. To give you a sense of the traffic, we have over 500,000 users every day and going up. And honestly, multiple millions of downloads every day. So this is really the go-to place for the machine learning community to find machine learning models and data sets. Next slide, please. So this is the family picture today. On the right-hand side, we have data sets and models hosted on the hub. We have machine learning libraries, such as the Transformers library, which is the main one. It just passed 100,000 GitHub stars. That's only the second time a machine learning project achieves that. And with those libraries, you can train the models, you can deploy them, you can work with them in many ways. Then you can deploy them on our own infrastructure in machine learning demos, web demos called Spaces. I'm sure you've seen Spaces already. And then, of course, you can deploy the models either for free, for dev and test on the Inference API, or for production on AWS, right? And another cloud vendor. On top of that, we're also building our own models and applications. Last year, we published the Bloom model, which is an open source alternative to GPT-3. A few weeks ago, we published StarCoder, which is an open source alternative to code generation models. And you can go and test that. And we've also built our own chat application based on an open source model called Hugging Chat. We have many partnerships with cloud services to create great experiences for Hugging Face users in the cloud. And we also have hardware partnerships to help train and deploy those models as fast as possible. Next slide, please. So why are customers more successful with open source models? Well, a number of reasons keep coming up in our discussions. The first one is obvious, it's accessibility. You can download those models in seconds from the hub using our open source libraries, and you can start experimenting in minutes. So super simple, no need to procure anything, no need to configure anything, just download and test. Those models are open source, so you know exactly what's the architecture, you know what they've been trained on. What you see is what you get, and you can inspect the models completely, right? So there is no black box model, just a fully transparent model. Privacy and IP protection are important. A lot of customers have realized, sometimes too late, that when you send your confidential data to third-party APIs, well, you send your confidential data to third-party APIs. And it's not quite obvious what happens next. So that's a problem, especially for regulated companies who work with very confidential data or where data privacy and personal information needs to be strongly protected. And last but not least, freedom of choice and IT flexibility. You can work with any model, you can switch models, you're not locked in any way. And the same goes for the deployment environments and the compute services that you want to work with. If you want to work on your laptop, that's okay. If you want to work in the cloud, that's okay. If you want to work with containers or machine learning services, that's okay, right? It's your choice. Next slide, please. And we also hear that customers are more successful and find success quicker with smaller models, right? A lot of people would want you to believe that the bigger a model, the better it is. Well, that's simply not true. The smaller models are equally capable. And the reason why you want to work with smaller models is because, of course, your business problem is simpler, is more narrow than trying to answer every single question about the universe. So why would you need a huge model to work on a more narrow problem? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Agility, those models are faster to train and retrain, and you can just iterate and innovate quicker. They cost less to train and host. They predict faster, and they're generally as accurate, if not more accurate, than the larger models, as proven again, and again. So my recommendation is to start with smaller models, evaluate them on your own data, and then go up in size if needed. And that's generally easy because, as you can see here, a lot of those models come in different sizes. So you can start small and scale up if you need to. Next slide, please. So to close that point, generally we think that training models is a cost, and it's a sunk cost in many cases. Building quality data sets is an investment, and here's why. You will train more than you think, because the pace of innovation in model architecture is crazier than you think. So don't think you can train a model and live with that model in production for 2 years and get your ROI on 2 years. Because next week or next 2 weeks, a new model will come up and blow the other one away. And so obviously you'll be tempted to switch at some point. So if you work with unnecessary large models, you keep training and training and training, and you waste a ton of money doing that, right? And instead, if you work with smaller or, let's say, right-sized models, they will deliver the same accuracy at lower training cost and hosting cost. And of course, since they cost less money, it's easier to throw them away. They become expendable. And generally, we think that you shouldn't fall in love with models. Models will be expendable for a long time, right? The value is not really in the models. There's always going to be a better one. The value is in the high-quality data sets that you use to train your models. And that investment will pay dividends for a long time, right? Healthcare data from 30 years ago is still good. Financial data from 30 years ago is still good. Models from a year ago, who remembers them? Next slide, please. So we built a large language model leaderboard to help you figure things out. It changes very quickly from 1 week to the next. So up until a couple of weeks ago, Llama was the top performing model, but now there's a new sheriff in town. It's called Falcon. It's been trained in Abu Dhabi on AWS, I believe. And this is the best performing large language model now, right? So that's now. Next week or next 2 weeks, it'll be something else, okay? So that's why you need to keep an eye on this and decide when to switch to a better model. Next slide, please. So that's Falcon 40 billion, fine-tuned for instruction following. It's deployed on Hugging Face, on a space. You can go and have a chat with it. I think it's pretty impressive, and we like it a lot. And of course, you can easily deploy it on AWS as well. You'll find it in SageMaker Jumpstart, alongside 250-something other high-quality Hugging Face models. Next slide, please. And the last topic I want to call out today is there's a GPU obsession in the community. I think it's unhealthy. It's justified because there was very little choice. I think now we have different alternatives to host and train the models. So, for example, a lot of workloads work very well on CPU, actually, for inference. You can do a lot of NLP inference and some computer vision inference with good performance on Intel CPUs. And the reason for this is because a lot of applications don't have a very strict latency budget, right? Not every use case requires 5-millisecond prediction. A lot of AI use cases are actually batch, right? Or again, high latency. So why spend more money on more expensive hardware if you can use the CPUs? So we do a lot of work on this stuff. Again, we partner with a lot of hardware companies, and we help them build tools to support fast training and fast inference. I have a YouTube video where I show you how to do stable diffusion inference in under 5 seconds on a single CPU. For a lot of use cases, that's going to be more than enough, and definitely simpler and cheaper and more flexible than the alternative. And of course, we have plenty of accelerators now. We have the AWS chips, Trainium and Inferentia, which we like very, very much. You can actually see the performance here, comparison for Inferentia 2 against comparable GPU instances, more throughput, more cost performance, and generally the ability to support larger models. So if you haven't looked at Trainium and Inferentia and you're running on AWS today, you're missing out, so you should catch up. There are other options like Habana Gaudi accelerators from Intel, and just a couple of days ago we announced a collaboration with AMD, so very excited about that. Too early to say anything about it, but we're going to work on hardware acceleration for CPU and GPU with AMD, so should be pretty interesting. And it's really not difficult to switch from GPU platforms to other platforms. We have those optimum libraries, which we build for every particular hardware vendor. Most of the time, it's a one-line code change in your code to switch from, let's say, NVIDIA GPUs to Trainium. So it is super simple, and there's no reason not to try it. Next slide, please. So here's an example. This is a 7 billion parameter model. It's a Mosaic ML model that was actually optimized to run on a single CPU. I encourage you to go and check out that demo, and you can see the generation speed that you can achieve with a well-optimized model on a single Intel CPU. I can't really see the difference with the other chatbots. And if it generated faster, I couldn't read faster, so it doesn't change anything. So again, do the homework. There are lots of options now to get great performance with smaller models at better cost performance. Next slide, please. So, as a conclusion, well, I think we're all convinced that AI is changing the way we build software. A few years ago, customers would tell me, I want to add AI features to my app. Now they're telling me, I want to, what great model could I use, and what use cases could that solve, and what kind of app could I build from there, right? So we start from the data and the models, and then we build the app. The transformer models that we host are the de facto standard for AI apps, for natural language processing and computer vision and speech, etc., etc. So I suggest you start there. Don't believe the hype. As I mentioned, the best model today, whatever best means, will be replaced in a matter of weeks. Okay? So anybody promising their model is going to be the best forever is not giving you the full picture. There is no model to rule them all. Again, there is no model that works great across all industries, across all use cases. So you have to do the homework and find the model that works best for you and train it on your own data. And customers tell us that smaller open source models are the way to go. And yes, I wouldn't be standing here if I thought that right now AWS wasn't the best place to train and deploy models. We've done a lot of work with them, and we're very happy to have this partnership. We have lots more to do to build the best, most secure, and most cost-efficient Hugging Face development experience in the cloud. Thank you very much, AWS, for inviting me. Hope this was useful. Again, I'm sorry I need to run, but if you have 2 or 3 questions, I guess we can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julien. So as Julien just said, we're going to take 2 questions from the audience. So Adrian, we have a question right here.
Hi, my name is Boris. My main question is about when are we going to see these models optimized enough to run on a user's computer? On user's computer. A regular PC.
That's already the case. I mean, you can already see blog posts and YouTube videos of folks running, Llama models on their Mac, I think there's an iPhone video floating around. So it's happening now. So you're not going to get the 100 billion parameter models on the phone right now, but you're going to get those 7, maybe 10 billion parameters on smaller devices, thanks to techniques like quantization, model optimization, etc., which are all part of the work we're doing with Intel and everybody else. So there's a lot happening. It's actually the one thing that I'm most excited about, the model compression and model optimization techniques. Thank you.
One more question, if we have one from the audience. Great. If not, thank you very much, Julien.
Thank you. Thanks again. Have a good day.
Thank you. And again, if anyone wants to talk to Hugging Face, Julien Simon is available on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and others. Otherwise, talk to your AWS account manager, and we can direct you in the right place. Next, I'd love to invite Tyler Saltzman from Stability AI to join me for a conversation. Thank you very much, Tyler.
Thank you. Test, test, test. All right.
Thank you. So Tyler is why don't you tell us what your title is?
Yeah, so I am the Director of High Performance Computing. My job is, so I report to Emad, and I build out all of our supercompute clusters, whether it's with AWS, Intel, NVIDIA, GCP, you name it. So that's my job, and then what I like to do is take excess compute and help startups like yourselves, which I can get into a little later today.
Fantastic. So I think for most of us, there isn't necessarily a need for an introduction to Stability, but just in case, why don't you give us the quick round of what Stability AI is and does?
Yeah, so we believe in open sourcing models. We think that democratizing AI is important, and we're the only open source multimodality company in the world. And what that means is we have text to image with Stable Diffusion. We'll have text to audio, text to video, text to 3D, text to animation, video to video, and we're coming out with Stable Chat. And it's all going to be open source, and we're really excited to do that.
And we're very excited to be working with you. So Tyler, you've had a very unique journey. We were very lucky, and I'm very sad that I no longer get to work with you, because you used to work at AWS, you used to work as an account manager, and you work with some of the most amazing generative AI companies in the world before. Can you just talk to us about the journey that you've had and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so a little bit of context. I was at AWS for 3 years. I ran a book of business of over 3,000 startups. And 18 months ago, I came across Emad, the founder of Stability, and he had this big vision and this big idea. And what I loved about AWS is we had an entire dedicated account team to support Emad in his vision. And what that means is you have an account manager that is your point of contact, that acts as the conduit, that unlocks all the horsepower that AWS has to offer. There's other teams like VC BD teams that Laura's on. There's specialists in AI/ML. There's solutions architects. There's all of these resources at your disposal for zero cost. And there's even programs like Activate where they give you credits to subsidize your spend. And then what I love the most is Amazon even helps startups go to market. So in communicating this vision to Emad on everything that the startup ecosystem that AWS has to offer gave to Emad, it made it a no-brainer to build on AWS. And then I was the one that closed Emad for over $450 million on a 3-year deal on SageMaker.
Fantastic. So since you're mentioning SageMaker, and this incredible journey that you've had. When Stability first started, they were building on EC2, and we're sticking a little bit with the technical now because we're going to move on to the more theoretical later on in the session. But Stability started off on EC2, and then it moved on to SageMaker. So why don't you tell us why SageMaker for Stability?
That's right. So EC2 is great because you can use EC2, EKS, parallel cluster. It gives you a lot more flexibility and diving into the model in terms of things you want to adjust. But what we liked about SageMaker was it's sort of an all-in-one platform, and we actually were able to get better performance and training across nodes. We actually saw a 50% performance increase from 100 teraflops per second to over 160 teraflops per second. In addition to that, we even had increased resiliency. And what that means is SageMaker has something called automated health checks. And when a GPU goes down, SageMaker is able to automatically swap it out in their pool of on-demand A100s, keeping our cluster online. And as we're running jobs that require many days, that's important. But more importantly, just from the training and the resiliency perspective, SageMaker has over 100,000 enterprises today that uses SageMaker and growing. And what we decided was we're going to completely rely on SageMaker as our go-to-market vehicle. And so what we do today is we bring the models to the customers on SageMaker Jumpstart through Foundation Model Hub. Now, every customer that uses SageMaker can easily use Stable Diffusion and fine-tune it in their environment, locked in a VPC, which is safe. And conversely, what we see in the market is if you want to build on GPT-4 or ChatGPT, you got to bring your precious data to OpenAI. And with Samsung and the things that we've seen, that's problematic. We've solved for that by bringing the model to you. Now that model is brought to you, and the best part is you own the model. So let's say you take a model, you fine-tune it, that model now belongs to you completely. And then more importantly, your data is safe because it never leaves your environment. And you're on a great platform like SageMaker.
Fantastic. I mean, I've loved working with Tyler because I feel like I'm learning every time that I talk to you. So hopefully everyone in the room can use his experience to learn more. Which brings me to the next question, which is, in your role at Stability Now, HPC Cloud Partnerships, how do you work with startups, and how can startups in the room, or anyone who gets to see this webinar later on, reach you, talk to you? What should they be coming to you for?
So I love this question because what we're doing is we're creating an incubation and an ecosystem where we're going to be helping seed a lot of these new startups, particularly in Gen AI. So if you're an aspiring Gen AI founder, we're more than happy to help you. We can help you with expertise by getting access to our scientists to help you train some models. We can even give you some free compute because I manage all the compute, and sometimes we have some compute waste, so I'm more than happy to give you access to it. And then in return, I just ask for collaboration. Maybe you all have a core competency that one of my scientists doesn't have, or maybe you're doing something novel that you'd want to share, or you're interested in helping pioneer the open source community. Please reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to help to streamline those conversations, and more importantly, get you the resources that you all need. And plus, I've got good insider AWS information, having worked there for many years. But I do absolutely recommend that every startup should build on AWS. You have a team, you have SageMaker, you have wonderful products. The things they do for you, you're not going to get the same experience from other providers. And lastly, I know that we're on the topic of GPUs. And I advise startups all the time. It's like, don't just look at what this person is charging per GPU versus AWS's GPU price. Because I hear a lot that AWS is too expensive. But what you're forgetting is you're getting the entire dedicated account team. You're getting a go-to-market vehicle. You're getting folks that co-sell with and for you. And you're even getting intros to VCs through this single point of contact. So there's a lot there, and more than happy to answer questions offline.
Fantastic. Thank you. And my last question to you then is, you're doing a call to startups to come work with you. What is unique about the business model that you have, and what makes it essential for everyone to come and work with you?
You know, I'd say what's unique about us is, again, democratizing AI for everybody, always maintaining an open source vision, and every time we have a model, you'll have access to it, and then more importantly, you own that model. It's your asset, it's your data. Now, selfishly, if you ever want to work together, I would like good data sets to train on, and maybe we could even build a model together, go to market with that model, and we share royalties or revenue share. So that's a unique way we're doing business and partnering up with folks in our ecosystem, in addition to some of our large enterprise customers. But to Julian's point, data sets are king, and whoever has the best data sets are going to have the best models. Now, I'm a big fan of GPUs. Right now, we have over 6,000 GPUs today. I'm trying to buy 8,000 more. So for NVIDIA out there, be ready, and orders coming. I need 8,000 more. So to that end, yeah, let's work together.
So before we close, first of all, as you can see, this room has room for networking. If you do want to talk to Tyler after the session, please go and have a chat with him. But as we move on, we're going to have a session specifically on safety in AI. So I'd like 1 minute of your thoughts to prime us for the next conversation on safety in AI.
I think safety is by far the most important thing in AI today. What we're seeing with OpenAI and the race to create AGI, I do think that something like that could take down democracy as we know it. Like AGI is potentially very dangerous, but it's also super impactful. Now at Stability, we're not chasing AGI. We just want to build cool models to help you all out. But what they're doing, it's important. That's why I'm a big fan of Conjecture. They're going to be speaking today on how they're going to be helping police and keep AI safe. And what that means is when we do reach AGI, who's going to be the ones that make sure that it's safe and it's good for humans and that it's policed? Folks like Conjecture. So I'll pause there and give the rest of the show to Laura.
The rest of the conversation is up in 20 minutes. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Absolutely.
You can and again, for everyone in the audience, as soon as we're done with the programming, Tyler's going to come back on stage for questions. Otherwise, you can talk to him over there. Next, we have Laurent Daudet, who's co-founder and co-CEO of LightOn. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for all being here. So my name is Laurent Daudet. I'm co-CEO and co-founder at LightOn. And at LightOn, we build generative AI, we build large language models for the enterprise, and we try to tackle the challenges for the enterprise to really grab on this new generation of AI. So yeah, you all know that this LLM really changed the way you deal with text. However, there are many challenges when we talk to companies. The first one is like it's changing every week. There's a lot of hype, a lot of noise, and they don't know where to start. Then it's already been mentioned. If you use, say, OpenAI or any service based on an API somewhere on the cloud, you don't know what happens with your data. They can even reuse your data to build the next generation of models. And it's not just your data, it's that the way you build your prompts, it's part of your know-how. So it's even more than the data. And then deploying production grade, I mean, it's very easy to play with some LLMs, but the day you want to deploy one that can scale to production, this is not as easy as it seems. Again, prompting is not easy either. I mean, building a prompt is easy. Building a good prompt requires some training and know-how and expertise. And finally, customizing, building custom LLMs can mean many things. It could be prompt tuning. It could be putting some of your enterprise data within a training set. It could be just any type of RLHF or any type of feedback you want to optimize your data on. So there are many flavors of customization. In many cases, the companies don't know really where to start and how to do that. So at LightOn, we built a platform called Paradigm that is supposed to be a turnkey platform for all these needs. And actually, it's very interesting. I think we are living a very interesting moment in the history of AI, where, like until very recently, we, as an AI company, we were only talking to the AI group, to the data science group in large enterprise. And nowadays, because these models are being used in natural language, we can talk to really the business units. So we can really talk to, sometimes we talk to people in marketing. They want to use this language model to create some marketing material. Sometimes we talk to customer support. They want like some Q&A system to help better support their customers. We talk to the HR department. They want to sift through CVs. We talk to production. They have a lot of data that's coming from their production site, and they want to get insight from that. We talk to R&D. They have to look into masses of data, and they want to do queries in natural language in big databases of patents, for instance, in the pharma industry. We talk to procurement, to the procurement department, where procurement It's a lot of paperwork to just issue RFP, RFQs, and so on. So people need to, start to realize in enterprise that they need LLM to help in any of these tasks. And these pre-trained large language models, you are just one fine-tuning away from all these end users. So Paradigm is really a whole platform to help you do this journey towards getting the LLM for your company. Let's start with the bottom right. It's important to install, to be secure. It's already been mentioned by Julien just from Hugging Face. Your data safety is the most important asset that you have in a company. So you don't want to send your data on some API. You want to have the LLM on the whole infrastructure living within your infrastructure. It could be hosted on AWS. It could be hosted on any other providers. AWS is very simple because some of the models are already on SageMaker, and we plan to build more on that. Then you want to integrate that with your data. You want to connect with your source of data. Finally, you want the data governance and prompt monitoring. And eventually, the most important thing is the bottom left here, where Paradigm allows you to store all your interaction with the model. It can help you build good prompts. It can automate the prompt design. And once you collected all your prompts on all the outputs of the model, you can do the rating of the outputs. And then you can use all the database that grows as you use the model to refine, to do the fine-tuning of the model. And there are many fine-tunings that are possible. It could be just prompt tuning. It could be RLHF. And actually, that's the thing. The large language models that have been pre-trained, they are just the tip of the iceberg. They've been pre-trained on generic data, but that's not what you want for your company. For your company, you want some model that's been trained specifically on your private data, specifically for your use cases, and specifically with your metrics. Because sometimes it's like the output, it goes beyond I like the output or I don't like the output. Sometimes if you say you are an e-commerce platform, what's important for you is whether people click and buy the product. It's not whether you like the description or not. So you can actually fine-tune the model based on some metrics that goes beyond just like or dislike. It's not RLHF, we call it RLBF, reinforcement learning by business feedback. You can enter any of your metrics to customize the model according to whatever you want. Say customer engagement and so on. Whenever you have a metric you want to optimize on, you can fine-tune the LLM based on this type of metrics. So eventually, what we offer is what we call the data flywheel, where you combine the high-quality LLM that we offer, you combine your use case. It could be any type of NLP, NLG use cases. You know all the use cases you can do with these large language models, and then you combine with what you want to optimize it on. It could be company data, it could be company analytics, and eventually you want to use all these analytics to build better products. Building better products is really the key. You are going to iterate on this model, and the more you use the model, the better your model will become, and the better it will be optimized for the metrics that you care for. So just examples. We offer to our customers some example front end. This is just an example. It's been done like in one day with one of our developers, just to show that you can do some Q&A on some documents. You upload a PDF or a series of PDF, and then you can ask questions in natural language. So this has been used by, customer support type of people. You can do summarization and so on. These are just examples that you can do with these large language models. The models, we built our model on the, it was already mentioned by Hugging Face before. We built our model based on the best open source model at the moment, which is TII Falcon 40B. but we did our own instruction tuning on that. So it's not we have a proprietary instruction tuning that we performed on this model. It has 40B parameters, and it's probably the best model currently at this size. We can do all the fine tuning for you, and we can even do completely from scratch models for some customers. We've built some custom models, and yeah, we've trained some of the best LLM in the world. So I think it gives us some edge into offering you all the support to build the LLM that's good for you. So just to summarize the 3 unique differentiators that we have across LLM vendors, we are just way beyond just an LLM vendor. We offer the platform that gives you built-in privacy guarantee, because the model on the platform, they are installed on your infrastructure, whether you are on AWS or any type of VPC or even like strict on-prem, we can do that as well. We offer full customization options on your data, for your use cases, with your metrics in your infra. This is really the most customizable platform for LLM that you can get on the market. And eventually, the last one is easy to serve. It's just like you can deploy production-grade server to, you don't pay by request. It's a flat fee rate to access the platform, so you can completely control your cost. And that's me. Feel free to reach out. I have to go very soon after the session, but please contact me, and I'll be happy to answer any question.
Thank you very much, Laurent. So before you go, maybe like before, we can ask the audience if they have just a couple of questions. Let me see the microphone. Yes. Does anyone have any questions for Laurent? Not immediately. So if you don't have any questions right now, but you would like to talk to LightOn later on, contact Laurent. Second, Adrien Almela, who's standing right there, is the account manager both for Hugging Face and for LightOn. We do love French startups, and he's the man for Gen AI locally. So please talk to him if you have any questions. Thank you. Thank you, Laurent. Merci. Next, as promised, we're going to have a conversation about safety in AI with Conjecture and Gabriel Alfour. Yes, you can clap. It's welcome. Thank you very much, Gabe.
Hey, nice to meet you.
It's always a pleasure. I'm speaking in English with a French speaker in France for an English audience, so this is always fun.
They can always benefit from our perfect French accent.
Thank you.
Okay.
So to start off, why don't you just give us an introduction to who you are, what Conjecture is, and what it does?
So I'm Gabriel. I'm a co-founder at Conjecture. Conjecture is a startup working on training models and AI alignment. We're very afraid that AI will kill us all, and we're trying to avoid that.
What an introduction. Since you just said AI alignment, I'm going to switch over the order of the questions and say, we are hearing the terms of safety in AI, responsible AI, and AI alignment. So why don't you tell us what the difference between the three is, and why does it matter?
Sure. So responsible AI is usually a PR term. It's a way to say that your model doesn't output toxic stuff, like the N-word or whatever. So this is important if you care about fairness, bias, all this kind of stuff. AI safety is usually about safety. So safety is about avoiding accidents. So if you deploy your model or your AI system in critical stuff, you don't want everything to blow up. So it's a way to get your system to be more reliable, more robust, more resilient to perturbations, noise, all this kind of stuff. And the last one is alignment. So alignment is a bit more niche. The idea behind alignment is that we're building systems that are sci-fi shit. I think that's the prosaic term. So we have autonomous agents. You have people like Super AGI or AutoGPT that are intent and adamant on building super powerful AI systems that can do anything that a human can. And the problem is that if you have a being smarter than you, getting it to do what you want is hard. And this is what alignment is. It's to get AI smarter than humans to do what we want. Given that we're already failing at even GPT-3 or GPT-4 level, it doesn't fare well for the future.
Thank you very much. So then that brings me to the next question, which is, there clearly is a hype in AI right now. We can barely keep up with the market. It feels like there's a new AI company popping up every other, not even week, every other day. So what is important for everyone in this room as they're building an AI or working with companies who are building with AI to keep in mind for safety, responsibility, and alignment?
So I will say two things. The first one is you have access to Google and you can learn things, use that. You have a whole bunch of AI leaders like Sam Altman, Demis Hassabis, Dario Amodei, or Hinton from Google before, who said AI is a big risk alongside pandemics and nuclear annihilation for human extinction. It might be good to figure out why they say that. So that's the first thing, just learning about things is quite good. And the second one is that everyone is in the AI hype, unlocks a lot of value. We can automate a whole lot of work that no one wants to do, so that's great. I will say go for it, but just focus on precise tasks. Don't try to do things that will replace humans entirely. Don't try to build autonomous agents, swarms, or this kind of stuff. Just don't take Matrix or Terminator as a blueprint, and that will be good.
Great. So then could you tell us specifically what Conjecture is doing within safety and AI? And again, how startups here should be working with you to ensure that they're putting that or embedding that in the way that they're developing companies today?
Sure. So there are two things that we do. The first one is just doing AI stuff, and then the other one is AI safety. On the AI stuff, as we said, we're training our own models, we're training foundational models, we're training text-to-speech models, we're training more things. If you're interested in people who have the ability to do so, come to us. My co-founders are Sid and Connor. They were the founders of Eleuther AI that you might know from GPT Neo X20B or GPT-J. So if you want people that are that good for whatever, just come to us. So this is just the general AI stuff. In AI safety, we're basically working on more robustness, reliability, and security. So our current agenda is called COEM, which stands for Cognitive Emulation, which is trying to do AI that thinks in human ways so that you can understand what they're doing. So if you don't want AIs that hallucinate, if you want explainable AIs that are still general and powerful, you might be interested in us.
Fantastic. And the company is based in London, but you're operating globally. So wherever you are, and especially if you want a French speaker, he's the man to talk to. Let's go a little bit more philosophically or industry news right now. CEOs of OpenAI, Anthropic, and DeepMind recently signed an open letter stating that, I'll get this quote right, they stated that AI poses an existential threat that is akin to nuclear disasters. And I would like to know what your view or Conjecture's view overall is regarding the letter, as well as the work that you're doing specifically.
Yeah, so our view is that they're basically right. When technology grows bigger, the scope grows bigger. 1,000 years ago, you discovered a new technology and it fucked up. You might be able to, kill 50 people if they're all in this room, close to each other with a bad bomb. 70 years ago, we got an update. The bombs became nuclear. If you fuck up, and the US did, you kill a few 100,000 people. Now, with our current level of tech, if we fuck up, I think you can get to 10 or 100 millions, with a bad designer virus or a lab leak. And in the future, at some point, you get to the point where a fuck up just kills everyone. And so you want to get to the point where when we reach those technologies, we don't fuck up anymore. And AI is the kind of stuff that accelerates the growth of technology, so it makes things become existential. What is the wording that they've used in the letter? Threat to the continuation of humanity.
Yep.
It's PR for it kills everyone. So, yeah.
This is Conjecture speaking, not AWS. Just
Yeah,
to be
this
very
is
clear.
Conjecture. There is a poll of people, we polled employees. It's a biased sample. They work at Conjecture about their timelines on AI. And I think it was like 60% of the 25 employees that were like, AI kills us in 10 years. So this tells you what we think.
Okay, so there's a big threat. Some of us should be worried, some of us aren't. People should maybe be in the middle, or not, depends who you talk to. What do you think is necessary in terms of regulatory, legal frameworks, et cetera, to make sure that actually innovation is supported, that we continue to innovate, we continue to create, and we don't stymie it while doing it in the right way?
Yeah. So just very quickly, I wouldn't say people should be worried. I think people should be informed, and then they can make up their own beliefs.
Excellent clarification.
I would not presume to tell you that you should be worried about stuff. But yes, at least, please check out why Sam Altman says that AI might kill us all. So that's the first thing. Then, regulation is very helpful when people do not inform themselves, and I think that's the current situation. So the kind of regulation that I want is mostly the kind of regulation that avoids sci-fi shit. So what I mean by sci-fi shit is AI that has access to infinite compute, AI that is plugged to every API and every robot, AI that thinks by itself, that is purely an autonomous agent that acts along all those lines. And any regulation that purports to, curtail or constrain those things is regulation that I like, Don't train GPT-4 size model. That's a very good one. Don't build autonomous agents, make AutoGPT, Super AGI, ChatGPT that runs code illegal, all this kind of stuff. And then what I will say is that this is world-changing technology, and I don't mean it in a hype way. I mean it, in the same way that nuclear was world-changing technology. And as such, I think it should be regulated and possibly controlled by nation states, and ideally in a way that is international, just not, every country is developing their nuclear bombs in their own turf. So yeah, I would say those are the three main things that will help a lot. One, people informing themselves. The second one, actual regulation that aims at bonding AIs that are built, so no infinite compute, no access to all APIs, no autonomous agents. And the last one, if I remember correctly, was actually building AI together rather than having a race to the bottom. Right now, we have all countries that are like, oh, we should get our national LLM. This is really bad. That's not the kind of stuff that I want. I would prefer all countries that go like, let's build this technology together in a safe way. We have done it for a whole bunch of tech, stuff like, bioethics. We don't have human cloning and so on and so forth. I think we can do it for AI. That's it.
Fantastic. And so since you said hype and you're talking about individuals, I'm going to close with one question, which is sort of left field. But this is a room of innovators. This is a room of either founders or future founders that we would love to be working with, and we want startups to be building on AWS. So one thing that an investor told me recently, and I thought was a fantastic quote about this, was, it is not that investors are on an AI hype, is that there is an AI hype, so founders are jumping on the hype, and hence investors are following the founders, is not investors following the hype. But at the end of the day, AI is a tool. Everyone's looking at the tool. Should we be looking at the people building it, and what your opinion is on that?
I didn't catch the question.
It's your question.
Sorry?
Should we be looking at the tools that people are building, or should we be looking at who is building, what their background is, where they're coming from?
Oh, yeah. So I would love to be in a world where my worry is that people might misuse AI, but I think we're more in a world where we're building nuclear stuff, and the nuclear reactors has a blast radius that encompasses the entire Earth. So I'm more in the mindset where right now I worry that we don't have good enough nuclear safety, that we don't know how to build nuclear reactors that don't kill us all. So this is more of a safety problem, avoiding accidents. Once we're past that stage, I will start to worry about people building nuclear bombs and using it to kill their opponents. So I think it's like two different stages, accidents that kill everyone versus people doing bad shit. And right now we're more on the first stage than the second stage. When you're at that stage, typically you don't want to make everything open source. If you have blueprints for nuclear stuff, don't make it open source. If you have blueprints for autonomous agents, you know, the sci-fi is there for a reason. That's about it.
Excellent. Again, I love speaking to you. I've had a great time talking to Conjecture because it's always a fantastic philosophical conversation, and I'm sure that everyone has a position on how they feel about this. Please have a follow-up with Gabe over there, and then we will bring you back for
Am I
some
just
questions.
add one last thing?
Of course, absolutely.
Sure. Here we talked in very vague terms like AI is hard to control, blah, 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 blah. I suggest to ground this in concrete terms. We suck at preventing LLMs from just hallucinating. Sometimes they just point blank lie to us. They tell us things that we know are wrong, and we know they know are wrong because with other prompts they will be honest. We don't know how to control their behaviors in a fine way. The best thing that we have is stuff like RLHF, for ChatGPT or whatever, which changes everything. You can get an LLM to act like it does and just change one thing. There are a lot of benchmarks that are like this, where we just don't know how to control existing AIs. If you give them more resources, the problem doesn't become easier. So I wouldn't say that it's philosophical. I think it's a whole bunch of concrete problems that we're just plainly failing at. If we solved, robustness, if we solved honesty, hallucinations, all this kind of stuff, I will be way more hopeful. It's just that we're really bad. On GPT-4 safety card, GPT-4 just lies to people to get what it wants done, and it was deemed safe because it was not surprising. Yeah.
What a way to end this. I'm sure there will be follow-ups, and again, this is a conversation that all of us should be continuing to have. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. So, since we're saying that you should all be building on AWS, the question is, how do you build your generative AI startup on AWS? And the best person to talk to you about this is our amazing CTO of AWS France, Stephan Hadinger, who's going to give you all the information you need. Thank you. Slides. I have one is that other. Well, while we're having a small change of slides, I'm just going to invite Adrian Almila to come on stage with me for a second. Yeah, so I just wanted you all to see who Adrian is. As I said earlier, Adrian is the account manager for Hugging Face and LightOn. He's also working with generative AI startups. So just until Stephan comes back, this is who you need to be speaking to if you are a startup building in generative AI today.
Thanks for the time. So hello everyone. So I'm Stephan Hadinger. I'm the head of technology, CTO for France. I will talk about generative AI. Do we have the slide? Yeah, great. Thanks. First of all, so I have the chance to meet with lots of customers every day, and I mean it is not surprise that generative AI took the world by surprise. Actually, we're not that surprised because we were sure that AI would have an impact. And the reason is that actually within the Amazon group, we've been doing AI for more than 20 years. We have not been very vocal actually, because actually if you use, for instance, Amazon.fr, there is a ton of AI in your customer experience. maybe you don't realize it. And I think this is where it gives the most value, is when you have AI, but you don't know it, because it's so well integrated in the user experience. So of course, it's in the e-commerce, of course, in Alexa, in autonomous flights with the drones, and so many other places. So the goal also is it too loud? No, it's okay? Okay. At AWS, so AWS is the cloud computing division of the Amazon Group. We have a mission. We said our mission is to democratize technology in every way possible. And of course, also in AI. 5 years ago, we created SageMaker, which is our suite for machine learning and AI. And actually, we have more than 100,000 customers that are using these tools during these 5 years, every day for real workloads and to create value. So not a big surprise. But actually, I just want to maybe do a flashback, because the topic of today is AI, but we shouldn't forget also the basis, the foundations. So with AWS, you have more than 17 years of experience. Interestingly enough, the first service we launched was Amazon S3 storage, which is still today a key service, whether you're doing analytics or you're doing AI, of course. One of the things that is very different in AWS compared to other cloud providers is that very early on, we invested in custom silicon, in our own chips. It may sound weird, like, why on earth would AWS want to build their own chips? The number one reason is for performance. And we started on the top, we started with Nitro, and we'll talk a little bit about Nitro, which is a good news. And we moved on into our own processors, and now also our own chips for training and for inference. And the thing is, because we believe that at scale, and when you make a fresh start with technology, there is a way to do things much more efficiently, which is good news, which means more performance, lower costs, and also a lower carbon footprint. So let's start with Nitro, and this is slightly technical, but not so much. On the left side, you have the way that traditional hypervisors are made. So when you take a virtual machine on a server, the way it is done, it is here traditionally, and in every other cloud providers, it's software virtualization. The bad news with software virtualization is that there is a performance impact. And typically, we had to, in the first 10 years we did that, we had to dedicate 30% of the processors just for virtualization, which was lost capacity. The other problem is there is let me move here. Here, there is the console. It's called DOM0 in Xen, and there are many, many other names with other solutions. When an administrator can access the console of the hypervisor, this person can do everything. And this is a security concern, because it means access to data and many, many more. For the since 2017, so it's very mature technology, we're doing Nitro, so it's on the right side. Nitro, they are physical cards. It's hardware. It's like super sophisticated network cards. Nitro is doing the virtualization on hardware. So first benefit is now 100% of the capacity is dedicated to you, to customers. No waste. And better performance. So actually, if you measure, customers, they don't see anymore any difference between bare metal and virtual machines. So this is benefit number one. Benefit number two is actually, on those cards, we put electronics for encryption and decryption. So you get, on top of that, you get free encryption. And when I mean free encryption, is free as a euro free, but it's also performance free. There is no impact on performance. And it's a fair amount of electronics, because on the biggest instances is 400 gigabit per second on the network cards. That is encrypted line rate without any latency impact. So good news, but this is performance and encryption. The third one is, if you compare, there is no console at all on Nitro, which means that there is no way, and there is absolutely no way, for any person within AWS, being an administrator or not, or support or whatever, there is no way that any person in AWS can access your data. Period. Only you can access your data. And this is important, especially with regards to laws. And there's a big debate about extraterritorial laws in Europe, for instance. This Nitro protects your data in a way that whatever the laws, whatever the evolution of the regulation, at AWS we are simply unable to provide the data to the authorities. The mental model is like having a big safe, and before that, on the left side, is some people, some administrators, had the keys of the safe, and there was a process to protect the keys. Now, it's just like with Nitro, we've removed the lock. There is no lock, there are no keys, there is no way we can do that. On top of that, so the Nitro is with the first step, we also developed our own CPUs, processors. We call them Graviton. It's the same technology that you have in your phone. It's ARM processors. And you know, the good news is that it consumes very few electricity, which is a good news for your battery life. But you have the same thing on the servers. So moving to Graviton, you save cost. But on top of that, you divide by at least 2 the electricity consumption. So it's a win-win, it's a very good thing. And let's talk also about security, because AI for businesses is about training systems with your private data, your sensitive data. And the more you will need, the more you will do AI, the more you will need to train the models with probably the most sensitive data of your companies. So security is key. And at AWS, we always say security is our top priority. I mean it. Everything is built around this. Our security and compliance team review everything that goes into production. And if they don't validate it, it doesn't go to production. No exception. Again, on security, this is what we call the shared responsibility model. It's very simple. The lower part in orange, this is our responsibility at AWS. So it's about the data centers, the hypervisors, all the lower stuff. The blue part, this is for a virtual machine, the blue part is your responsibility, and you have full control about what you put, what operating system, what software, the patching, everything. But the system is mostly designed to protect you, I would say, against AWS or against AWS employees, in a way that, again, no AWS employee is never, ever allowed to access to your data unless you authorize it explicitly. The fun thing here is actually, we have lots of customers, of course. We don't know what our customers are doing because the services are just processing 1s and 0s. What type of data we are processing, we don't know. Is it public data, personal data, banking data, health data? We don't know, and we, in a sense, we don't care because we apply the same level of security to every customer and to every piece of data. So we treat anyone, all the 1s and the 0s, as your most sensitive data on Earth. Because this is our model, and this is what's important for you. I need to talk because I very often have questions about the Cloud Act. The Cloud Act, actually it's not the Cloud Act, it's CLOUD, it's an acronym for Clarifying Lawful Overseas Use of Data, which is basically a fun word. It's not about cloud, basically. It's about electronic communications, and by extensions, if you use a cloud for electronic communication. But anyways, if I take so you remember the diagram with Nitro. If I put all the pieces here, all the data is encrypted everywhere. It's encrypted in memory with the latest technology, and the keys are in the silicon. It's encrypted on the wire in the network card thanks to Nitro, and the keys are non-extractable. It's encrypted on disk, and it's protected with encryption keys, and you have the option since December to have external key stores. So you can store and manage your keys outside of AWS if you like. The only location where the data is in clear is within the processor, the CPU or the GPU. This is the only location. And this is why we built Nitro as this security enclave, so that whatever a judge, an authority, an agency asks us, whatever, we have no ways to provide the data in clear and to access this data in clear. And this is why when we talk to the most sensitive customers in pharmaceutical, in healthcare, in banking, I mean, you name it, now they have the full, we call it the full sovereignty of data with it. Because it means that AWS alone is unable to provide any meaningful data to any authority. It's under your control. Whatever the laws, whatever the evolution of the laws, this is super important. So I'm really insisting on that because I just don't want that in your AI journey, you are blocked at some point because some people say, well, we cannot push this type of data in the cloud because it's too sensitive. This is the way we respond to this question in AWS, and we are the only cloud provider to have Nitro, and this is a very effective way. So if you have questions, if you have concerns, please come to us, come to the AWS team, and we can help you into addressing those concerns. Okay, this was the flashback about security, and let's go back to generative AI. Of course, you can look, and there are basically two questions with generative AI is how to use it, what is the business value, and what's the purpose? And the second one is more about technically, what's new for you, and how you can address all this. I'm sure you've been already explained that, but this is really the 30-second pitch about large models. A couple of years ago, when you needed to do deep training, you needed data like in the tens of thousands, of the hundreds of thousands of data, and for deep learning. It's getting more and more expensive with the large models, so the beauty here with the foundation models is some great people here, they've done it for you. And they provide those foundation models as pre-trained. So the left part, you don't need to do it. And by the way, it's significantly expensive. Now the good news also is using a foundation model, you need to, as we call it, to adapt. So to specialize a little bit, but the order of magnitude is much, much less. So when on the left side, you need typically tens or hundreds of thousands of data or even more. On the right side, it's more in the tens, the hundreds, or the thousands, period. So that's a very good news. And it allows, again, to democratize technology in a way that you can start projects super quickly. So this is our new goal in generative AI, is to provide you with those foundation models and all the tools to do what's on the right side and to do it as quickly as possible. So we believe that going through SageMaker and through AWS is one of the easiest way to start with those large models. Within SageMaker, which is our tools, we have lots of partners. So you've seen Hugging Face, LightOn, and many others. Those models are here. They are pre-trained or ready to start literally in minutes. So you can experiment. And at the same time, as I said, with the security and the privacy and the confidentiality of your data. So I've talked about custom silicons, custom chips. We've seen Nitro for acceleration of utilization. We've seen Graviton as an alternative to x86 processors. Actually, we did the same for AI. We started with Inferentia. So Inferentia on the left and the next generation on the right. The first reason was, I mean, we talk a lot about training, which is very highly consuming. But actually, inference is super interesting because many of the chips out there, the GPUs, they can do inference very well. But when you look at the price-performance ratio, actually, most of the time, they are an overkill. You don't need that much performance for inference. So it's too expensive, basically. So this is why we designed Inferentia as being the right ratio. So it's nothing compared to those GPUs for training. This is not the purpose. It's on the contrary, it's really designed for inference at the best possible cost. And we evolved to Inferentia too. One of the big references of Inferentia is, of course, Amazon Alexa for the inference. And there are, I don't know how many of them they have every minute, but huge numbers. So, of course, having the best, let's say, cost proposition is absolutely key. And we launched as well another chip, a separate chip for training. It's called Trainium, so not very fancy naming. And again, it's the same thing. It's typically 50% cheaper than the equivalent in GPUs, and you'll have the same effect also. It's roughly consuming 50% less electricity, which is also one of the big questions with generative AI is about carbon footprint, of course, and how to make sure that we do it in a responsible way and consume the smallest amount of electricity that is possible. So we're super excited with these new chips, and it really allows to democratize even more with being cheaper and more cost-effective for your projects. So this is really, I would say, more in a summary. So we have this experience of more than 20 years of AI. We have a way to simplify the access to all those models. The price performance is super interesting, especially with those custom chips. But of course, we do provide as well NVIDIA chips, Intel, AMD, and all the others. And my message here is, you can, if you have not done already, you can start right away. We are super pleased. We have LightOn on the booth, at the AWS booth, when you can talk to the team. But we have also, of course, Hugging Face and all those companies. Now, of course, we have also announced Bedrock, which is a way to democratize even more, is to make access to this technology even simpler outside of SageMaker. SageMaker is for developers. Now, Bedrock is even to make it simpler. It will come a little later this year. And it's a kind of marketplace, if you want. So we integrate some of the best algorithms of the market. So we have already announced a first list of partners, which are AI21, Anthropic, and Stability AI, and also our own Amazon Titan models. And of course, this list will expand. So, I mean, the future is bright, and it will be super interesting. So this is in a nutshell, and thanks for listening. So Bedrock is coming, but please start today with SageMaker and have a look at those amazing chips that have this new, super interesting price-performance ratio. Thanks a lot. Laura, I think it's the next.
Thank you very much, Stephan. Or Stephan. Thank you very much. It's always good to hear what we actually have to offer on the technical side as well as the business side. So for my end, before I go on, I'd like to say, first of all, again, please have a conversation with Stephan. He's incredible to talk to. He's the most knowledgeable person I know on regulatory policy, public policy, and how to build in a compliant way, whether you're in generative AI, healthcare, life science, or whatever it is that you're building, not just in France, but across Europe. So if you're concerned about these topics or interested in them, please go and have a conversation, and he's going to come back later for some Q&A. Other than that, I am very, very excited to introduce NVIDIA, as well as a couple of startups that are going to come and speak to us in a panel now. And the reason I'm excited about that is because my job is to do business development for VCs, accelerators, and founders. So my team focuses on working with founders such as yourselves to work with your investors, to offer credits, to help you build, to give you access to account managers and solutions architects, to understand what your needs are, to look inside the company to build with the right tools at the right price, but also to take you to market. And go-to-market is an essential approach that we do through our partners. We have multiple programs in the BD team, such as CTO fellowships. We have programs for product market fit, we have accelerators, we have the Startup Loft Accelerator, and we have multiple content that is on demand available on the Startup Loft. So please sign up on the Startup Loft where you can access training, on-demand content, and interactive content. One of our partners that we work with very regularly is NVIDIA Inception Program. So I'd love to welcome Pierre-Antoine Baudouin, who's going to talk to you about what the NVIDIA Inception Program is, and then 3 companies that are part of the program as well. So Turin Tech AI, Leslie, Clip, and Check and Visit. You can sit here. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's a big one. It's been a while. Thanks a million, Laura, for having us first. Quick shout out to 2 persons, one of them being Syla. Man, thanks a mil. Second one is Julien Salinas. Sadly, he can't be with us because of like terrible rain falls in the Alps, so he got stuck in mud with his TGV, so he won't be there with us, but I have an amazing panel. The guys from Clip, the guys from Check and Visit, and Turin Tech. I'm super happy. So I'm Pierre-Antoine Baudouin, 8 years of NVIDIA, building the Inception program 7 years ago. We're going to be 7 by October this year. 14,000 members worldwide, changing AI, changing deep learning, changing GPU techs. I'm so fortunate. I have the best job in the world. I'm talking with like some of the most brilliant guys ever. I'm so small compared to you guys. What we do with Inception is help founders from very early stage to unicorn status. Some of them were mentioned yesterday during President Macron address. Some of them you can see around. Hugging Face was just there before. And we help those startups in every step of the way in creating a startup. So from developing, training the teams, finding funding, finding resources, GPUs wherever they are. Of course, at AWS, thanks Laura and all of them at AWS to have us with you guys. It's been a freaking journey with you. Without you, we wouldn't be what we are today. So amazing thing, seriously. Like.
I'm going to jump back on to say we love it too. And we love working with all of the Inception program companies. We don't just give credits, we actually build together, and it's a great alliance for us to have together.
This is super important. We're not like just giving out freebies and knowledge. We're really working hand in hand with AWS, with all our partners, with our startups. It's super important for us because we learn from them. And that's one of the key things. It's two-way relationship. They taught us millions of things. There are tons of things that you will be finding in our SDKs, in our technologies that we release every day to the market that came because we have been having those relationships with our members, with our startups, whatever the stage they are. So
I will ask everyone to sit down and be comfortable for a little bit.
That's exactly what I was about to say. And
yes.
One of the first things, because I've been talking a lot about myself and about my amazing company. So first, I would like you guys to introduce each of yourselves and what you guys are doing, and especially one thing, the most important question. Why is it that you chose to do things with AI and GPUs and AWS? So first, tell me who you are, and let's start with the middle. Go ahead, Sylvain, please.
I start?
What?
Okay. So I'm Sylvain, Chief Technical Officer of Check and Visit. So we are a startup operating in the field of real estate. We do on-site inspection. We just raised 12 million to execute the vision to collect, share, and structure data. And the original part is that we have our own technology to generate neural radiance fields, which is basically a new way to generate a new view from a collection of photo you can collect with a mobile phone, basically. So it's very advanced. We have NVIDIA, who is very good at it, and Google. And why we use GPU is basically we don't have another way right now to generate nerf because it takes, let's say, 1 to 10 hours of computation per scene if you don't optimize stuff. And we do our best to be able to reduce that time and for our application.
And that's the perfect segue to Clip.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm Sven from Clip. We use generative AI to change how videos are created at Clip. Because today, on the one hand, you have people still editing videos manually, but you have social medias that are super greedy in terms of, well, content and videos to be posted there. And what we do with Clip is we help video creators focus on their original creation, their core ideas, their creativity. They upload that on our platform, so their original content, and we generate the best, the most viral variations of that content to maximize engagement across social media. And we've been experiencing quite some growth lately, and we're handling videos, so it's super heavy file that requires some heavy computing. And we got into the AWS Generative AI program, for which NVIDIA is a partner. And definitely, yeah, super excited about all the performance optimization and scaling and mentorship around that we could get with NVIDIA on that program, and that's already happening right now. So yeah, super excited about that.
You know what I love with this is that I don't even have to segue to go back to Leslie, because what he does with Turing Tech is exactly helping you guys and everyone else trying to create generative AI in streamlining what they're doing and like taking off the hassle of creating the solutions. So I love it. I should live and let you three talk. I'm not necessarily here.
I think you already done the introduction for me. Thank you very much. So I'm Leslie Canthan. I'm from Turing Tech. And Turing Tech is focused in the area of code optimization. We use artificial intelligence to do that. I actually got a good relationship with NVIDIA. We managed to get through with the NVIDIA Inception program, partly because NVIDIA was already working in the area of multi-objective optimization using statistical-based approaches. And we started collaborating with them because we use artificial intelligence in that area. And then, of course, generative AI started to take off, and a paper which we had published back in 2018-19, where we show that we take any piece of code and we optimize it so that it reduces the CPU memory and energy consumption of that given code, had dramatic effects, and we started to use GPUs to scale that. Actually, thanks, we've got over $1 million worth of hardware from you guys, so that really helps. So that's pretty much what we do.
One of the things that you all mentioned is that you've all been working with those technologies for quite a while now, and that you've raised the level of expertise when it comes to using our techs from NVIDIA with AWS platforms. But you were there long before it became all of the hype behind Gen AI, and everyone's like getting nuts about hashtags about this. How do you see that trend, and how do you see the collaboration between players like us, NVIDIA, AWS, and the other major techs in raising the bar when it comes to providing you with the set of tools that you guys need so that you don't have to reinvent the wheels, where we are doing the heavy lifting and providing you with the tools? Where do you see that coming? How do you see the future of those things, especially with SageMaker and NGC and all of those platforms? Maybe Sven?
Sure. Well, yeah, from my standpoint, we started 2 years ago, so really before that hype, and recently, this has helped us a lot attract, interest, funding, and also, yeah, mentorship and resources to make us better at what we do. And I think it's all about that, the level of technology and the level of people that we can reach through this new trend that's been amazing for us, opening a lot of doors. I'm talking really as a CEO standpoint, but I know in terms of technology also, we've been able to make huge leaps forward thanks to all the mentorship that we've been getting into the AWS Generative AI program and with NVIDIA. So yeah, that's definitely been a big booster for us in the last few months.
Thanks. Leslie, you guys are providing with Turing Tech, you're providing a even more layer of simplification for everything. How do you guys at Turing do yourself being integrated in that whole chain of value, adding more tools and more simplicity to the whole thing? For you.
Yeah, so if I can digress on that question that you mentioned earlier. So what we're seeing right now is that AI has been around for quite a while, and you had companies that were traditionally software companies. Now, with the advent of AI, you start to see a lot of companies now incorporating AI pieces of technology in them. So, for instance, you make SageMaker, which is in the model and machine learning area. And then you also have tools that are being built on top to work with GPUs. And then you have the explosion of what NVIDIA has been doing, which is building out all of this hardware, specifically A100s, H100s for GPU acceleration of AI processes. Then if you look at the trends of what's happening in AI, you have you're now starting to have code-centric tools. So in the tooling space, you've got code prediction, and that's what you've also got large language models as well from the likes of OpenAI. And so the trend of this is moving more and more upwards in the sense that the compute cost is going up, the hardware requirements are going up, so people are having to work with building more AI-related tools that can make things more efficient in that area. So we're going to start to see a lot of competition between software companies for using AI-based technology inside there. Also financial institutions, which have been primarily the largest adopters of technology in the past and have been kind of stuck in the legacy area, now moving more into, how do we solve and use AI more practically. So those are the kind of trends I see going.
You mentioned one key thing, the overgrowing theme of having more and more data. Sylvain, with Check and Visit, you guys are using tremendous amount of data, whatever the form data takes, especially in your business. How do you see the future of this, especially for you guys?
So, well, in terms of data, we have millions of images annotated by human due to inspection. Basically, I just checked yesterday. It's more than 12 million now. So it's growing very, very quickly. And we cannot exploit all the value of this data right now because we don't have time to test everything. So we need to focus on the real value of the company, the technology we are developing, and only on its core value. All the other part, from my perspective, it's faster to connect to another startup because just by chatting, say, oh, you have one startup which is specializing in this. You know that because they are looking about product market fit and growing, they will look at you. They will listen to you, and they will be basically your first partners. And this way, the ecosystem is moving really, really faster between startups than if you take a startup and basically a massive group, because we are more agile to take quick decisions because we know that our investors, VC raising funds, what they want to know, what is the mission of your company, what is the real value of what you are doing. And all those parts, at the end, they will say if you spend money in stuff that is not worth, they will tell you for sure. So, yeah.
I wanted to say on that, I imagine I can relate to that because I think the issue is that there's a lot of things that we would like to do. And of course, it will be in the roadmap, but it's what is critical right now because training and building your model and doing the kind of things that you requires a lot of compute time. And you're going to be on your machines for quite some time, and you need to kick people off because you want to prioritize on what you want to do. So for example, in our H100s, our utilization is almost close to 99%. So we have to kick people off regularly. And we have a set of 5 machines, so we've got Beast 1, Beast 2, Beast 3, Beast 4, Beast 5. So imagine everyone is using it flat out. So even when we have new ideas, so for example, we're looking at clone deduplication of code. We did a paper on that as well. It's very, very difficult to say, hey, let's work on that and use this on the new data set that we have because we're already chock-a-block. So that's also part and parcel of, I guess, for you guys, when you improve your technology and hardware, then that allows us to scale much more. And just so, because as you mentioned before, we're engaged with you, NVIDIA, in working in the healthcare division with a healthcare client. So we can only scale based on the hardware that we have. So it's kind of part and parcel both ways.
I love the idea of scaling with hardware because of the partnership we have with AWS and with all of our partners in terms of tech, whether it's on-prem or wherever you might be or want to run AI solutions. One of the things that always fascinated me is you guys, especially Clip, working with video being one of those medium that everyone uses every day, whatever the app you're using, whatever you're doing with your phone, there is video somewhere at some point. And everyone tends to forget the amount of data that it generates and the amount of intelligence that you need behind it to make sense of whatever is in that video, and that you know if it's okay or not to be published, if it's okay or not to be used, whatever the countries you are, or the kind of public you are in front of. But that also requires amazing systems to make sense of those videos and know how to browse those videos when you are the service provider behind all of those things. With all the stacks that you are getting from us, from AWS, from your partners, how do you guys make sense of which are the best tools to use and the kind of support that we as industrials can bring in some of value? Like, hey, you guys should use that framework or that instance or that kind of tweak so that you can gain, I don't know, like 0.5% of performance, which might represent $1 million of revenue.
Yeah, sure. That has been a big challenge. And in the early days, we were just focused on the the off-the-shelf models that we knew about, and we would just package that into that aggregated thing, and we would try it on our use case and try to make it fit and just fine-tune it, but kind of manually.
I can so much relate to this. I guess we can all of you guys can relate to what it just said.
Yeah. That's been fun. I mean, it's the early days, and with that kind of behavior, you can just get to a certain point. And if you wanna pass the bar in terms of scalability and performance, well, this is where you need to do your own research, but also get in contact with the people that know and that can point you in the right direction to what's the model to use right now, what's the hardest thing that you could use for your use case, and kind of also put in the works, the pipeline efficient enough to test it super quickly, make sure that it adds value to the business, because often it's like it's a lot of hype and talk, and you have to know if it actually fits the use case and the problem for your customers. And yeah, in terms of like the speed of that, being surrounded by people that know, and especially within the AWS network and NVIDIA, well, that's been a game changer for us in the last few months, enabling us to pass the bar to we have our pre-trained models to kind of fine-tuning that with our own data sets, building the data sets, which is kind of a whole other step, and that's a lot more tedious than putting together a few off-the-shelf model. And so, yeah, in that sense, it's been a big help.
You again segued to my next question perfectly to Sylvain. You said that there is a whole lot of things out there, like pre-trained models, frameworks, SDKs you can use to create tons of things, and then a ton of papers that are coming from research, from universities, from like crazy people like INRIA, like CEA, just to talk about France. Sylvain, you've been working on a technology that crushes a whole lot of things around it. You've been using some of our tools, but we've learned a lot from what you guys have been doing and the kind of things that you've been working on. How was the relationship in this? How did it work when talking with us with research and you guys on your end and the university academic world? How does that magic sauce happen?
Well, my case is quite particular because I know NVIDIA.
That's why you're here.
For many years now. Because before 10 years ago, I was already programming general purpose GPU. Basically, I was writing OpenGL and GLSL code because CUDA was not existing at that time. No, but really, and we were computing global elimination on GPU for computer graphics. Then I made PhD, and when CUDA arrived, everybody was only using NVIDIA GPUs. And because I'm from computer graphics, I mean, well, I've been using GPU from NVIDIA from all that time. And I have also strong connection with some researchers at NVIDIA. I have friends who work there now. So the ecosystem is quite easy to follow for me because I'm working on the same topics that I was working basically 10 years ago. But the change is, I mean, in terms of maturity of technology, especially graphics, machine learning, there is really a gap in the last 6 years. People don't realize that, but when you have done your PhD, basically you started 10 years ago and you start your PhD now, it's not the same PhD at all. And now the difference is you need to survive to archive, because you see a lot of content all the time. So, and you have also people which are not famous, which are making very good work. And that's the difficulty right now. It's to be able to navigate to people making real good stuff for you in the, let's say, the mess of CVPR and stuff like that, because it can be quite hard to follow.
Yeah, I was going to say, so in our case, we spun out our research and company from the university. What I agree with you there was definitely you doing a PhD in the area is not like what it was 10 years ago. I mean, you know, and at the same time, as I recall as well, the biggest problem, our University College London, where we spun out, is one of the top universities in UK and in London. I'm sure it is similar for you guys as well.
Big education partner of ours.
Exactly, of course. But the issue there is, even though they had a lot of hardware, they're not regularly upgrading their hardware. The second aspect as well is that you have to get some time that you spend on, you know, compute. So you have to get in time on the cluster, and those jobs, you know, take some time. So already imagine that you want to build and generate a specific type of machine learning model, and then you're going to optimize that model. It's so time consuming on a fraction of time. It's very difficult. What we have now in our office is like, you know, and comparatively, we have more power GPU-wise than some of the universities, including our own specific lab, just because of the fraction of time. Also, we upgrade our hardware, as you already know, very regularly, almost, you know, every year. We're getting new hardware and adding it. So that also helps. And I think that now things are changing. I think that whenever people have ideas, they can definitely sandbox them and try them. But obviously, doing the pre-trained large language models and working on that so time-consuming can take many, many months for you to have a compression fraction of what you really want to get, working with the sample that you may have. So I think, again, it comes to reaching that stage of, with research institutions having more availability of hardware so that people can work on those ideas from the university, and then they can move it out. Gone are the days where, you know, like 10 years ago, you had limited hardware and you weren't really able to do much, so you had to kind of get some hardware yourself and do things in a garage or anything. But now you can get some access, I think. Things are moving.
I mean, 10 years ago, we were all the Harry Potters of the industry, and everyone was looking like this, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, seriously, robots moving around on their own and images generating themselves? Like, seriously, guys. I want to go back to the ecosystem thing and really making hardware available, making knowledge and intelligence available to all of you guys. I want to go back to the very early days of your startups. When you started the whole thing, we existed, at least we had an embryo of what Inception program now is, and Activate existed at the time. It also grew like a ton, and it made changes like crazy, like with the stability AIs of the world and all of the others. We learned from them, we learned from you, but if you had to reflect to what you had at the time in creating a startup and what you have today with your daily startup and what you see the founders of new startups getting, was it better before? Is it better today? Would it be better tomorrow? What's your view on this? Because everyone seems to say, hey, it was better yesterday. I'm not sure. I kind of disagree with this.
What, for money? Because of
money,
this?
tech, knowledge, experience, expertise, all of that. All the things that create the secret sauce of a startup. It was super scarce 10 years ago. It's even worse today. Like, you want to have a PhD in machine learning, it's going to cost you like $500,000 a year. 10 years ago, it didn't even exist. So, like, what changed, and what are the changes that you guys would have wanted to see 10 years ago, and the kind of changes that you would want to see today with programs like us, with what we do with Activate, with what we do with Inception? Like, what do you need from us that we are not doing today or not doing good enough? Any of you guys? That question is for you three. Fight. Notes, please.
I think it's a good, big question.
I know.
I'd say on my end that it's all relative to the time when you start, and it's all about at the time you start attracting the right resources to you that are available at the time, but also the ones that are like you're gonna make that extra effort and open that extra door that's gonna open a new opportunities for you, a new perspective. So I guess it's just a matter of focusing on your customers, the problem, and then like just dig deep into the ecosystem to find the right resources. No matter at what stage you're at, if you're innovating, I don't know, like 5 years ago or 5 years from now, I think it's all about that, because you're going to compete in the end with people that are, well, in the same time, innovating in the same time period than you. And so this is really about making the most of what you have, I think. Yeah, that'd be what I'd advise.
Okay, so from my side, following on that, it's more stressful now than it was several years ago. I mean, when we started out, we worked on the research, I think, back around 2014, 2015, working on the paper around 2016. Now you've got a competitive landscape, and there's a lot of AI companies now emerging, right? When we started code optimization, nobody was on it at the time, but now people are looking at coding and code tools, etc. So there is the pressure of that. Also, in terms of resources, there was a lot less available back then. So we had to make do with what you had, made it very difficult for you to get your ideas into practice. Now, it's a lot more resources, and it's choosing that one idea and getting that one idea into, you know, something that is extremely commercial. So that's from my side.
I agree to what they say both, but in our case, we have one thing which is a bit different than many other companies. We are a lean company, because we started with operation parts, because we have it's like 300 people making inspection every day. So it's a lot of people, and we are building tools for them first. So we are very cautious about the experience of our user and the experience of our customer. And these 2 points already made us take very good decision at some point, and very bad also because we made mistake. But all the plan was to be able to collect that amount of data to bring values in second time. And because we pursued these ideas in the beginning, everything is basically, it's like a Lego bricks on the roadmap, but everybody thinks it's like a line. And I could tell to everybody, it's not a perfect straight line. It's more a roller coaster, so you need to be ready for that. And the product management is quite important to make the good decision at some point, because sometimes you need to stop some product, you need to start a new one. But you need to have this line, which is your idea, the vision you have to execute. And I think that if you keep in mind this, you will always find a way to have money. I know right now with war, it's in the market, it's very hard for some companies. We're completely aware of that, because we had to do this during last year, and 2 years ago it was COVID, so we have been into this twice. So we know this very well, but still, it's part of the difficulty of a startup. Saying it's easier or harder, for me, it's more about connecting and market. You really need to don't be scared to make your product used by a customer to get feedback as soon as possible. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is to have an idea, make 7-8 months of development, and having only, let's say, 10 months of runways before the crash cliff. And this is absolutely terrible. You should try to make the most valuable feature as soon as possible, even if your product doesn't look super sexy. I know UX, UI is super important, but you need to have a real trade-off to get feedback as soon as possible. Otherwise, for now, I guess you will die very, very quickly.
There's 2 magic words that you pronounce. One is very much linked to Amazon Group. 5 minutes? All right. I'll try and keep short. So you mentioned a word that is immensely important for the guys at Amazon in general, customer. I've never heard that many times the word customer than from Laura and Pat and all the team at AWS. Those guys, they are always talking about customer, customer, customer. I'm also talking about customer, but mine are a bit different. Mine are developers. But yours are either developers or bigger corporations. And we are both big corporations, like huge corporations. We were very small. I mean, we are still super small, NVIDIA, but anyways. First thing is, how do you get to your customers? And second, does it help to have us, in general, as big corp ecosystem, backing you guys when you get to a customer and you say, oh yeah, I'm working with AWS and NVIDIA, and those guys are so good at what they do that for the whole layer of tech and how you scale and how you deploy, we know you're backed. Now we want to get more into your product, how you fit to our market, our problems, how do you solve things. Does that help?
I can answer yes. One reason.
I hope.
One particular reason in the last 3 years, and it's true, we never had any incident with Amazon. I mean, it never stopped, it never burnt. And actually, we earned customer for this reason because, you know, something happens sometimes and you back up in the same office. So you know the company I'm speaking of. And basically, we have very good cooperation, strong. We basically come to us for this reason also. So in general, yes, it's a good sign.
Laura, you have the best testimonial ever there. It never fucked up. You're always up. Rock and roll.
Yeah, so I'll try and answer the first part and the second part of the question. So the first part is getting customers. It's kind of a question of what type of customer you want, right? So the first thing is, do you go for corporates or do you go for SMEs? If you go for corporates, it's going to be very, very painful because by large, they look and see that you're a very early stage startup. So somewhere along the lines, they see there's a lot of risk. But then you go to SMEs, and then, you know, SMEs will say, yeah, fantastic, they can get you on board, but then they have to find someone who can pay for the thing. So those are the 2 points that you have to kind of balance. What you tend to find is over time, you find some internal champions inside of the customer base. So one of the customers, for instance, that we were engaged with is a large bank that I had no contacts or relationship with. So imagine I've worked in the banking industry for some time, and even the bank that I worked with, we didn't have as a customer. But this completely new bank, suddenly there was interest there. So that's one way of engaging customer. Second part was what you mentioned about, does it help with AWS and NVIDIA? So originally, I wasn't sure because a lot of clients are on-prem, but as people started moving more and more to using cloud, we could see that there was this connection with AWS. And specifically through AWS, through Laura and a few other people, we were introduced to a number of their clients that like fully cloud, fully using AWS. So it definitely does help. And when you speak to customers as well and they say, oh, you know, we're already using AWS, then you can say, yeah, we have a network, we have a relationship. And then you can have some system of selling. I think that's one thing. And of course, the connection with NVIDIA as well, like, also helps as well.
Thanks.
Yeah, on my end, our target are video creators, video editors. So it's SMBs, but like really small one, like even prosumers. So at first you could say like, wow, it's a bit far from the AWS and NVIDIA network, but I think still, like putting on our website as a social proof backed by AWS and NVIDIA, that's a big statement that shows that we're in business, that we're serious. And so that has been a big help. And also, in the very early days of Clip, when we went to platforms such as Twitch or whatever, and tell them like, okay, we're gonna repurpose your content on also social media, they would kind of laugh at us because we were at the very early days. But now it's also a big help to knock on the doors of bigger corporates and kind of help with our bottom-up strategy to start with the creators and then go up to the agencies and then the platforms. And that's also why it was the best timing for us to be in that accelerator.
I see that Laura is pushing me to end up the whole talk. We could be there for the whole day. If you want to have beers, we can like grab beers and keep the discussion back there or somewhere else. Thanks a million.
Thank
I love
you.
it.
Well, you know what? It is lucky that I'm going to stand in a second. Everyone gets to have another half an hour, 20 minutes to ask questions to you, as well as our amazing founders. And I'm going to invite Tyler from Stability and Gabriel from Conjecture back on stage. So anyone who has questions, you're very welcome to ask them. So let me take the microphone. It can also be questions to each other, by the way.
Let's take
No.
shares. No.
Yes, Pierre-Antoine, you're going to stand with me. How about that?
What?
You can stand with me.
Yeah, I want to stand with you.
Yes. So first of all, do you have questions to each other? And before you go there, I'm going to ask the first question, just to give everyone a bit of time to think. Specifically to Sven, we have a generative AI accelerator program. We had over 1,200 applicants who applied to it, and we selected 21 companies. Clip is the one representing France, and it is one of the 21 companies that we selected. We're very excited about it. So first of all, is there anything you'd like to say about that? And then I'm going to open it to questions to the audience.
Yeah, sure. That's been an amazing journey. Like we applied in the first place, kind of like a dream, and now a dream, but that was backed by an actual, like, really thought out business case to how this AWS Generative AI program could help us. Because right now, 80% of our customers are already in the US, and we know we got to set foot there. But when you're overseas, it's always a challenge. And like, it's been the perfect kind of like trampoline to set foot there. I think the demo day in San Francisco is such a great energy, and you can feel even more than here. I think in VivaTech you can feel also like the buzz of generative AI, but especially like in SF, like you just feel it. It's so energizing as a founder, and also like networking among other Gen AI founders within the cohorts, exchanging best practices. Well, that's also been like yeah, an amazing journey, and it's been only just a few weeks, and we have still a few weeks ahead of us before the big demo day in the end. That's also like a big event for us. So yeah, super excited about that.
Well, we're very lucky to have Tyler here from the US, who can give us the US perspective globally. I don't know if you want to say anything, and otherwise, do we have any questions? But first for you.
Hey, don't be scared. We're
Yes.
super nice.
This is a workshop, after all. Yes.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, my name is Julien, and I've got one question for Gabriel, right? If I catch your name right. I've heard, or everybody heard, that you're quite bearish on AI and saying like, okay, we require some global framework, some global regulation to sort of minimize the risk. But I think you're all very aware of, for instance, the prisoner's dilemma, where when you have like, if everybody colludes, you get a lower prison time, which correlates to a higher payoff. But with, for instance, AI, there's no destruction with the atomic bomb, the example you made. There's only value creation. So how would you like create this global framework or get everybody aligned that everybody stops developing AI and first thinks about the regulation, about the risks? Because every time you have this one guy who could like not collude and then just develop it himself and then have a higher payoff. So I think it's quite risky or tricky to get everybody aligned and everybody stopping developing this.
I'm going to ask Gabe to answer this question, but I'd also love to hear from Stability what your perspective on the topic is, please.
So just trying to restate what you asked. You said something, you know, if I butchered what you said, just tell me I'm wrong. So you said something like, yeah, it will make sense to regulate AI, but it's really hard because everyone has interest to not regulate it. This is the shape of the prisoner's dilemma. How should we deal with this? Okay, cool. There are many ways to look at this. The first one is empirical. You know, human cloning, same prisoner's dilemma. If you're the country that does human cloning first, you have your new generation of geniuses. So what happened empirically is just you got the scientists that went to the governments, that went to the intellectuals, to the artists and things like this. They were like, hey man, there's a very big problem brewing up. Let's try to, you know, avoid it. And there's been massive campaigning in all the elites and so on and so forth. And at some point, you got international treaties that involved, you know, China, Russia, and other people that are usually framed as super bad actors that you cannot coordinate with, and we just did that. So the first part of the answer is mostly empirical, it's just you can. The second one is, it's not an actual prisoner's dilemma. You know, we can get in the math and the matrix and things like this, but the main point that I want to make is just, if you have one guy that goes too far, everyone dies. And so it means that you're also not incentivized to go too far. And then the third part of the answer is, let's say that you have some people who agree with this and some people who do not. And from the point of view of the people who do not agree with this, they're like, I have no reason not to do this. And so what you might have in mind more than prisoner's dilemma is the unilateralist curse. It's you have one guy that can fuck shit up for everyone else. And so the way we deal with unilateralist curses usually is you get all the people who want to avoid that thing to go together and be like, if there's a guy that shows intention of doing this, we'll punch that guy really hard. And so there are a lot of international treaties that are to this effect. I think you can imagine, stuff against chemical weapons, nuclear bombs, proliferation of many dangerous technology. This is not special in that way. The way in which it is special is mostly that you have a threshold effect where once you get autonomous agents, that can recursively self-improve and things like this, you get an increasing pace of technology where even if AI doesn't go rogue, you just develop super zombie nuclear bombs that can kill everyone, and someone fucks shit up. So the special thing of AI is not the prisoner's dilemma or the unilateralist curse. As humanity, we have dealt with such things in the past, sometimes well, sometimes badly. And when it goes well or badly, it's for very prosaic reasons. And that's about it.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Tyler to also answer the question, and then I can see Leslie getting ready to rebut. So how about we go forward with that?
Yeah, so I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think some regulation is important, and slowing down, for example, the rush to GPT-5 made sense. But the way I see it, it's sort of like the internet. At one point, the internet was created by the military, and it can be used for harm, it can be used for good. But what happened is it became democratized, and everyone has access to the internet. It's a powerful tool. It's changed the world for the better, even though there's some bad things you can do with it. And that's sort of how I see AI. I think you open source it to all. You democratize AI. We all have access to it. We all need it. It can transform education, enterprises. It can modernize data strategy. It can augment humans. It can do anything. And so I think it's a wonderful thing. Of course, let's have some guardrails. Let's be responsible. But I don't see the doom and gloom, if you will. But I do see concerns that we just need to police ourselves. And I think as we all, as a community, we all work together to better humanity. I think that's the approach we take.
Yeah, so I can come in a bit as well. So I agree with both points. I think that, first of all, in some financial institutions, and I had a roundtable with some heads of automated market making very recently in London. In some of those financial institutions, OpenAI and some AI technologies are completely banned. But then this creates a problem because then no one's exploring or finding out what works and how they can use them further. So a financial institution says, hey, you guys need to look at AI and see if we can do stuff with large language models. And then they said, oh, but we're not allowed to use Dolly. We're not allowed to access OpenAI, right? So people are doing it anyway on their phones, right? They're not on the trading floor, but they're outside the trading floor and they're accessing it on their mobile phones and seeing what they can use, right? So there is that bar of regulation, and we can see what the effect of that happens in financial institutions, and then we see what happens when you're not regulating it. But as I said, we're at this point where we need to be able to explore all of these methodologies in AI, and it's very difficult to do that if you can't do trial and error experiment. Also, the open source community is a large source of ideas for customer base for both AWS, for NVIDIA, for startups, much like ourselves as well, because people get to see what you're doing. So I'm kind of on the lines of we need to try it, we need to be careful of it. I think as my colleague over there mentioned, there's a decision factor involved in this, which at the moment in the media space, people are not aware of. They seem to think of AI as like some sort of consciousness. That's not where we're at the moment. There's still a trigger. There's a human being that needs to deploy the AI, and it can have a good purpose or it can have a negative purpose. As long as there's that, then you want to kind of understand what the intentions are for an individual. And lastly, even if we reach this stage that we go into nuclear disarmament, for instance, in that point that you made, game theoretically, about nuclear weapons, surely every government will keep one bomb just in case. So you'll have one AI model anyway stuck there that nobody knows what it'll do. So
I really kind of like the idea that all of you guys have been mentioning community, and that's the key of the whole thing. It's that we are all humans, as human beings, evolving on the same planet that is fucked up every day a bit more. And in that sense, we're all self-regulating ourselves. There will always be bad apples, but there is a vast majority of people trying to change the world for the better, whether it's in healthcare, space exploration, new energies, whatever it is. There will always be bad guys, but there will always be a community made of you guys, made of us guys, made of all those guys, people that are here at VivaTech, that will be at South by Southwest, that will be at Slush, that will be in all of those events, all of those get-togethers of the community, exchanging papers, publishing things, doing research and all that. Sure, there is a risk, but the greatest chance that we have to fight this and make things better is just us here. I don't want to die, you don't want to die, my kid doesn't want to die, she wants to go to school, grow up, ride the bike, whatever. None of us has an interest in this, even though some of us are kind of crazy enough to fuck things up, as you said, and I completely agree with you. The force of the community, the force of those brilliant minds creating things is maybe the way, because we went to nuclear disarmament because the community said, fuck no. Maybe questions in the room.
Yeah, before we have an answer, is there another question in the room? Otherwise, someone whispered a question in my ear. Yes, one question. And then we'll get back to you.
It's a good one, okay? The question about startups. So is there any place, possibility for new startup? For example, as Tyler said, they started for 2 years and they reached very good results and they achieved 100 million USD. And is there any free or possibility that no one builds now? In which sphere there is a free possibility now?
Can you just keep the microphone closer because I can't hear the question?
Yeah, did you hear my question? What's the free possibility space there in the market for startups to build? There is no one building now. In which sphere?
You can do anything you want, and that's kind of the things that really changed, I think. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I was a kid. Because of that, cap is a souvenir of where I started when I was like 6 years old. When I was 6 years old, creating a company was impossible. Because like communications, access to technology, data, knowledge, all of that was like for the big guys, you know, for the older grown-ups, the guys with money and the guys with knowledge. Today, you can be a student in his room at the university, and one day you wake up and you say, you know what, I need to have an assistant that will help me play FIFA better because I suck at FIFA and my friends are killing me every game we play, and I just need to help. And that might be an idea for a corporation. Or you're the son of a farmer who's raising pigs and you grew up in Poland and your parents have always been farmers and they have had pigs and they've been having problems with like diseases and vaccination and all of that. And one day you wake up and you say, hey, you know what, there's a technology. There's a technology, or at least a brick of technology that I can use to create a solution that will be helping my parents feed better their pigs or take better care of them. But you can apply this to pigs, to chicken, to cows, to crops, to food, to cars, to whatever. There ain't no limit. There ain't no limit because there hasn't been in the human history so far one moment in time where all the knowledge, all the savoir-faire, all the expertise are available right now.
If I may rephrase the question you had slightly, because I like the beginning of it, of startups started small. So we have companies that are starting out, that are in accelerators now, and have gone all the way to over $1 billion valuation. So I'm interested in exactly what you're saying, that yes, you can start with an idea, but then you can get to huge wealth. So I'd love to just start with Tyler from stability of that journey of growth, and then maybe we can hear from Check and Visit just to see what the flip side of an earlier stage company is and how they get to that.
So at AWS, there's an entire organization that's dedicated for early stage startups. Think there's a segment to go from 0 to 1 and another segment to go from 1 to 100. Now, when you're going from 0 to 1 as an early stage, a lot of them are bootstrapped, pre-seed, or friends and family round. What we, AWS, do is, one, we provide credits. So you can be an early founder, automatically get 5K and activate credits. Those credits are used to subsidize your AWS bill for any AWS service. There's other packages like 25 grand. There's 50 grand, and there's up to 100 grand. In addition to that, there's POC programs. So let's say you're looking to do SageMaker. You can effectively get 15 to 25 grand in SageMaker credits. So there's tons of ways to get these credits, and you get them through contacting your account team, which is going to be your account manager. For you, as your first step, what you'll do is you'll spin up an Isengard account in the console with your email, and then contact support. They'll route you to your dedicated account manager, which that person will then be the conduit to all things AWS. And you tell him or her, here's my vision, here's what I'm trying to do. They'll understand that, work backwards from your vision, help you get there, but more importantly, help you save cash burn by tapping into those programs.
And getting you in touch with the community, getting you in touch with us, getting you in touch with the other startups, getting you in touch with people that might help you, might have a vision as to, oh, that will take this. So right now, I'm not maybe the good person to help you, but come back in 3 months because you'll be tackling that problem, and there I can help. Huge community behind. Free space is what you make of it.
And again, that's the beauty that a startup has a journey. It starts out, as Tyler says, from spinning out an Isengard account, but then you raise money, you go through accelerators, we have multiple programs. So again, I'd like to hear from an earlier stage company that isn't yet, but possibly soon will be a billion-dollar valuation company too.
Go for it, man.
No, but the real start of Check and Visit, we were part of this accelerator in Paris, which is famous, which is named The Family.
Yep.
And basically, we got the first credit this way. And we already had this decision to be, in the cloud for the session. So everything was perfectly aligned. And after a few weeks, few months, you have another contact which offer you another opportunity. And if your project is growing, you will not have any issue to find where to start. And I can understand that. Of course, if you aim to retrain NLP from scratch, of course you need 100 of GPUs for weeks. So yes, for this kind of stuff, right now it's hard. But most of the work you have to do when you start your startup, you won't need this. Otherwise, you're already a good researcher in computer science, in NLP, and you know exactly that we'll have the backup. I just see Mistral raise 100 million. Yes, the 100 million, how much money to build the clusters they will need to start to work? It's probably 5 to 10 million very quickly. Then you have to pay all the people. But they want to do open research, so they need a lot. But I'm not sure you will have that many startups in this case. Most of the case you need to focus on business, have customer. So you can find always a way to start and get credit to start. You should not be scared of this.
Well,
there is a word of wisdom that I heard from Jensen himself when I joined the company a long time ago. He was one of the guys interviewing me when I joined the company. And he asked me one question. What would be the stupidest question you would think of? And he didn't even give me the time to answer. He said, the only stupidest question you can ask is the one you won't be asking. And I think that's the overall lesson that you have to take from all of them, and me and us and all of us in the ecosystem. The only stupidest question that we have had are the ones we haven't asked. Ask the question. There is always someone with an answer. Me, them, us. The community has answers. So don't be shy, don't be afraid. There ain't no stupid question. The stupidest question is the one you don't ask. That's really the main thing. I'm sorry, that was the word of wisdom from my CEO, but I love him and I wanted to share this with you guys.
Well,
there's one other question we get asked a lot, especially in the generative AI space. how much does it cost to train a model from scratch, and what do you need? So for an image model like Stable Diffusion, you'd effectively need a data set of 2 billion images and 250,000 A100 hours, which equates to about $8 million on demand, in addition to the scientists you'd have to hire to do it. So that's why you're seeing these crazy valuations of raising 100 million, 200, 300 million. I mean, there's a large chunk of it just right there.
Well, I can feel like I'll give you 10 seconds to answer, and then I'm going to have to close it off because we are at time.
All right,
Sven.
yeah. Yeah, I know it's connected to the question that you asked before, and I said that everything is relative, and within your time frame, you got to make the most of what's available. But I do think we live in a time with a world of opportunities, way more numerous than before. And I think the challenge right now is really to focus and first focus on the problem that you want to solve and your customer, and fall in love with that before falling in love with any technology, and see the technology as just a means to that end to solve a problem. And I think that's really the key also to then mobilize the right resources for you, because people will help you if they feel that you're passionate with the problem that you're solving, and I'll give you the right resources and point you in the right direction if they feel that focus and that urge and that passion. And yeah, I definitely focus on that, like starting a business right now. In the Gen AI community, if it's the technology that can help you, that makes a difference for the problem that you want to solve. But I really focus on the problem.
Thank you so much, Sven. I'm going to do a little call out for sort of what's to come. So I was just talking to a founder earlier in the audience. They're called AI. I'm sure we'll all be hearing about them soon. They're doing UI for AI. So things are coming that are exactly what is the product and really being different. And every person that we've spoken to in this conference and all the conferences that we go to are really coming up with good ideas. So we at AWS are very excited to see what innovations you all as founders are bringing to us. So I will close it off with just going back to you, Tyler, what you said earlier. The beauty of our job and why we're very lucky and enjoy working with you so much is this startup journey. We start with founders from day one. Then you move on as you go on from building, growing, scaling. Our team helps you fundraise, helps you work with investors, with partners. We help you go through programs in accelerators. Once you are in accelerators, we give you credits. And then there are all the programs in that journey that are focused on the stage in which you are at the journey. We have Marketplace, we have Amazon Partner Network. Stability is in Bedrock, is one of 3 providers partners right now. We are looking for every way possible for every one of our customers to have commercial success and growth. We're not just here to focus on how you're building, but we're fundamentally focused on taking what you're building out to market, going to market, and making you a very successful company that gets to come on stage and bring audiences all around the world that wants to talk to you, that wants to work with you, and that is looking forward to being one of you in the future. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.